our first one. Which was a bigger Husker win last weekend, football or volleyball, and why?
Well, hello.
Loaded question.
Yeah, who asked this question, Abby?
Abby, if I say football, you'll like walk out of the studio.
Yeah, I'm out of here, so be careful.
Obviously,
volleyball.
Maybe it's the number one team.
Yeah, I mean, that was a signature win for John Cook. I mean, Wisconsin was the one blemish in his recent career.
I don't know, guys.
beat
Beating a David Braun-led Northwestern team. I mean, come on.
17-9.
With their backup quarterback. I mean, that would be right up there. No, it's clearly volleyball.
So volleyball outdrew football for TV ratings. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Nebraska the volleyball team had more TV ratings on BTN than the football team. And that was also the most watched regular season volleyball match ever across any network.
Crazy.
And it makes sense because Northwestern is not a ratings draw. So like that rating for football would just be Nebraska fans. I mean, there's not a lot of national people watching Northwestern on TV.
Or a lot of Northwestern people watching Northwestern.
So
my favorite thing about Cook's, like he didn't bring it up. He was asked about volleyball outdrawing football. And then he said, well, I'm glad that you asked us and I didn't bring it up. But I also didn't mention that we hold the stadium record for attendance too.
How about that? How about
volleyball outdrew football and owns the Memorial Stadium attendance record.
Yeah.
He likes to set the record straight.
Just in case anybody forgot.
Still, I want that court storm, Abby. He wants that court storm. He was disappointed that they couldn't pull that off.
I don't know if he said that, but they they brought the students down on the court after the match.
Okay.
I think they let them because John was over there kind of.
Did they give out red cowboy hats, or was that like some students so all the students got red cowboy?
all the first few hundred students got them. The ones that were up in the standing room only didn't have a hat, but there was like 1,200 students there. So I think that was probably a record as well.
Did you get a red cowboy hat?
I did not. Isn't that terrible?
She's a professional. All right. Next question.
Okay.
I'm not a professional.
So Nebraska is tackling and hitting a lot more in practice this year. Do you think that impacts the injuries during the games, more of a wear and tear on their bodies?
I'll say the practicing on grass daily and how they do it, then going to turf, that raises my radar because grass is better on your body, your joints than turf. And all of these injuries seem to be happening in the game on field turf. So that's something that gets my attention, but they are practicing hard, and Rule almost wants to make sure we know that too.
I think there's only one way to answer this question, and I can make things as difficult as they can be with the best of them. I think you literally have to go back and look at each injury and how it occurred to answer that question. I'd have to focus in on exactly what happened on the play where the player was injured before I enter into a broad-based discussion about if they're all related. How can you do that without looking at each individual injury?
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that they've come from all different shapes and surfaces, too. I mean, the guys got hurt at Minnesota. Guys got hurt at Illinois. So, I know people want to say
turf, though,
Nebraska's turf is this issue. Well, maybe it's a problem, but it's not like the overlying...
No, it's turf in general, I would say.
Yeah. Now, hold on, though. Is it wear and tear? Is it turf if a guy just gets blocked into Ethan Piper's knee?
It's the forgiveness of grass versus turf. That's the debate. You just get that natural ground forgiveness where turf is, they and you go back to the 80s and 90s when they played on AstroTurf. I mean, that was like concrete.
It was.
We played like concrete. Did you ever, we played some high school games on old AstroTurf, and you didn't really wear you didn't wear cleats, obviously. You wore
tennis shoes.
You wore your basketball shoes.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Yeah, keep it rolling.
Does Nebraska win the Minnesota game if it is held at this point in the season?
The question is, with the deficiencies on offense, how much would that factor in? I mean, I would like to think the defense would play as good or better, and maybe the turnovers wouldn't be there. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's plausible that they would win that game if played now.
Yeah, turnovers are still an issue, though. I mean, they're putting the ball on the turf and throwing interceptions just as much as they were in that week one game. So that was the biggest issue, is the fact that they gave the ball away 4 times. Or what did they just do on Saturday? They were reckless with the ball.
Yeah, they were reckless. Would they give it away twice? Two interceptions. They fumbled 3 times.
recovered. Yeah,
they fumbled 3 times and recovered them all. I'd say yes, though. I mean, I'm just going to
I would like to
piggyback
think
off
so.
what these guys. Piggyback. Go ahead, keep rolling.
Okay. Who do you think are the top 3 Big Ten West defenses?
Well, you just said Nebraska,
Nebraska, Iowa.
And then who's the third?
I don't know if you'd say Wisconsin.
You
Probably.
might say Wisconsin, but there's a drop off.
Mhm.
There's a drop off.
I mean, Minnesota. That guy in the
Oh,
secondary.
Minnesota's pretty
That
good.
guy in the secondary, Robin, that had the pick on Nebraska. He's a first rounder.
Yes.
They've got material. Minnesota's got material.
I have to look at numbers. And Abby, I apologize. I don't know what the numbers would say.
I mean, Northwestern's defense is not bad either.
Not bad.
I mean, they held Penn State in the first half.
Yeah, Penn State ended up with 41, but they did tell them to 10. And I think it was 10 in the first half, I believe. So I'm going Minnesota. I'd probably go Minnesota off the cuff. Minnesota off the cuff for number 3.
Yeah. So the yards, the points between Wisconsin and Minnesota are pretty similar. Wisconsin's only giving up 18 points a game. Minnesota's giving up 24.
Okay.
Every team in this division is similar.
They are.
I mean, there's really not a lot of stat differences on these teams.
Eyeball. And I haven't seen Wisconsin except on TV. I saw Minnesota's defense. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And Minnesota just held Iowa to 11 rushing yards. Okay. And a lot of the basis for me saying Minnesota's the third best defense is them holding Iowa to 11 rushing yards.
I do think, though, Newton in that Illinois front. Now, so did you know why Illinois blew that lead? Newton got
ejected, yeah.
And once he was out of that game, it changed.
No way. They fell apart. They fell apart without Newton. You're right, Sean.
So, he is the star of the West.
They're good up front. Illinois, where they have a lot of troubles, their back end, Sean. Their secondary is really suspect, but they're pretty good up front.
All right, final question.
What is the worst job you've ever had?
Worst job I ever had, and I did it just for a month or two in college. Like, there'd always be this gap from football season in the spring where I just needed to figure out how to make a little bit of money. So you'd give plasma. Robin did that before.
Oh yeah.
I had to make a little car payment and some things. So you got to come up with like $200 or $300 somehow. And I took this telemarketing job right down here.
Really?
And you would.
How old were you?
I was like 19.
Oh.
And you would just go in and like try to. It was a fundraising thing. You'd try to get people to give money to nonprofits, and it just nothing about it felt legit at all. And it just didn't have a very good feel.
How'd you do?
I was
Did you get
fine.
Did you get some going?
You just had a lot on your mind. You had to study and you had schoolwork, and it's like, God, I had to come in and do this for 4 hours just to make a little money in college at that time. So that would be probably my lead. I mean, I worked in an auto part warehouse all through high school, and that was hard work. I mean, you lifted and moved batteries and heavy stuff, and it was 100 degrees in there sometimes.
That's not easy. Warehouse work is not easy.
No, because there's no air. They don't have air conditioning.
Right. When I was in high school, my dad made me get a summer job, and there wasn't really much hiring. I didn't really have any skills, and so I took a dishwashing job at Famous Dave's.
Oh gosh,
man, oh man.
Whoa.
That job sucked.
That
was awful. So like their thing was like you get like just trash money, but you get a free meal. Well, when you spend 4 hours cleaning up everyone's discarded food and cleaning out just sludge from the sink and all that stuff, you're not wanting to eat. So I didn't even like eat my free meal half the time. There was like dudes on work release working alongside me. Like it was an issue. I'm glad it was only one summer, but the reason my dad made me do that was like, hey, you want to not mess around in school? Get used to working jobs like this.
That's kind of what my mom did.
So it was kind of the kick in the old pants that this guy needed.
I never have had a job I didn't like, except never had a full-time job I didn't like, and never. There's one summer where Sean reminded me of. I just started the Journal Star. I wasn't making any money, and I had to fill in some gaps. And I worked these temporary jobs
on vacation weeks, right?
Yeah, and I worked at a lumber yard right in the North Bottoms there, and it was it was too much for me. I mean, I was working with a bunch of young dudes carrying lumber, and I was trying to keep up, but I'm like 5'8", 145 at the time. I mean, it was rough. I was young enough. I just wasn't big enough.
You weren't jacked like you are now.
Yeah. But it like I remember going home and going to bed like at 6 o'clock. Like it was that type of deal. Like I can't, I'm not going to.
Yeah, you know, it's a tough job when you just come home and immediately go to sleep.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Going to bed.
Anyway,
Abby, did you have a tough one?
Oh yeah, Abigail.
I haven't had a ton of jobs, honestly. Probably
This
like
job,
5
probably,
or 6. Yeah, definitely this one. But after that, I would say I nannied for a couple of summers, and there was one family where it was pretty difficult. I'll just say that.
Is that right?
They lowballed you a little bit?
No, just their children. they were
Behavioral.
difficult. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's all I'll say.